And I didn't know that, when I was in a coma, that the surgeon was just going to go ahead and amputate. And my husband said, do not amputate her leg. I want her to wake up from a coma with both of her legs and let that be her decision. Don't touch her leg. And
Good
he
man.
signed
Good man.
papers, for him not to be able to operate on me. It was like, it took an act of God, pulling a lot of favors, a lot of prayer, a whole lot of grit. But we found a doctor, Dr. Don Wiss at Cedars, and got transferred. They were going to airlift me out. And I could not get dismissed out of that hospital, admitted. It's a big deal to get admitted to another hospital when you have an injury that is, this substantial, because they're afraid you might die on the way, and they're going to have to accept liabilities and all the other reasons I don't know. But it did take a lot. But we got transferred, and it took 34 surgeries, but they saved my leg.
Wow, 34. How over the span of how long did these 34 operations take place?
Well, the months in the hospital. When I was first in the hospital, I'd have a day of surgery, a day of recovery, a day of surgery, a day of recovery. And then when I got out of the hospital, I would go sometimes a month, sometimes 1 year. But I had my last surgery on my leg. Oh gosh, it's been like 6 years ago now. And I don't plan on, no, I take that back. I had another one on my foot. So it's over the years, but I don't count the little ones where I've gone into the office and they do a surgery without putting me under.
Got to be under for it to count.
Yeah, I got to be knocked out.
I thought I was special. I'm like right around 20 from my buddy right here.
You
Operations
are.
and yeah, all kinds of stuff. But you take the cake, that's for sure. The normal human response, at least I think it is, when something really bad happens to you, like that happened to you. You weren't out there speeding around. You weren't drag racing. You weren't on your way back from a 10 margarita girls' night out. You were coming home from work, and an SUV clipped you. You weren't planning on that. You didn't bring it on yourself. It happened to you. The normal human response, at least that we see pretty often, is look at what's happening to me. I can't believe this. I can't believe my life. This is going to be my life. I feel so sorry for myself. What's immediately going through your mind? Obviously, you hear 1%, and you dial in on that number, and you're like, we're saving this. Mm-hmm. But did you struggle with doubts? Did you struggle with your faith? Were there times when you were like, I just want to tap out? I mean, how did all that go in your mind?
Man, there's days still to this day I want to tap out. I'm like, where's my little white flag that I can wave around, and I have to get back to basics. But my first instinct going through all of this was never anger. It was never, why is this happening to me? It wasn't that at first. I was so focused on surviving. I was on survival mode, and how can I get through the next hour? Not the next day, the next hour. Because when I was out of a coma and I got transferred, my leg was held together by these metal rods, and it was completely open. So I had compartment syndrome on one side, and the other side was completely just busted open. And you could see on the inside of my leg. And it was this weird thing where, me being a personal, a former professional fitness trainer for years, I was like, wow, look at that. You can see the gastrocnemius, and you can see the soleus, and you can see it, as a biology. But they would rip these bandages off every 3 hours, and it was the most painful experience. It was so hard for my husband to even see me like that. He couldn't be even on the hospital floor when they did that, because I couldn't control the screams that would come out. And I would just hang on to the bed, and they would change these bandages every 3 hours. And my husband was very angry. He was angry at the guy that hit me. I didn't have time for anger. I had to survive. I had to focus on every day just getting through that moment and the next. And so I focused on what I could do and what I could control. And what I could control was the way that I thought. Because when I started to spiral down, I would think, okay, I've got a choice here. I can go down into the darkness and the pity party, and I can feel like crap, and I can cry about it, and it's okay to cry. But I was like, I got to get through this. I want to see my kids. I hadn't seen my daughter in 2 weeks, first time I'd ever been away from my daughter. If I could get better and well enough to sit up in a chair, then I could be rolled out of ICU and I could go see her. So I think I did one thing is I focused the moment I would start to feel sad or why me, I would get grateful. And I would think about being alive, that I had breath, that I still had family, that was coming to see me in the hospital, that I had great doctors and nurses. I mean, and I was grateful for the little things, and I would notice how that would shift my perspective. And then I would also do whatever I could in between surgeries. And the doctors thought I was crazy. Like, they thought I was crazy.
What were you doing?
I said, I need a pull-up bar installed over the bed.
Oh, hell yeah.
And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, I need to keep my upper body strong. I can't get up. I can't stand up. I can't even use the bathroom on my own, but I can sure as hell lift myself up over my own dang bedpan, and keep my upper body strong. So, and then my friend Danny, who I worked with, he was another trainer at the gym. I asked him to bring me some dumbbells, and he didn't think that was crazy at all. He was like, I get it, girl. You need to work out, And so I had 3-pound dumbbells. And so I would use those, and it wasn't that I was like, I want to be fit and strong. I was fighting for my life. But what moving my body did for me, even stuck in the hospital bed, it made me feel like I was moving in the right direction. It made me feel like I was somewhat in control of my own health, because I felt pretty out of control. I didn't know if the next day or that day was the day they were going to amputate my leg. So I was doing whatever I could. And I prayed. I asked God for help. And I had a community of people that showed up for me. I mean, the most amazing friends, family, clients that showed up for me. And I couldn't have done it without them. I don't know what I would have done with my 2-year-old and getting my older daughter to school, and if I didn't have that community. And I had a friend ask, one time, she's like, well, you're really lucky that you had that community. And I said, your hard work puts you where your blessings can find you. And I think that when you are constantly being of service to others and you're doing good for other people just because you care, then not with the expectation, but those people tend to show up for you, in my experience anyway. And that's what happened. All these clients that I had trained, some of them for years, they were there at the hospital. They were there helping my husband. They were there for me. I needed my clients now more than they needed me.